W's in the ha, 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 ha.
This is the most awkward introduction ever.
Hi there, my name is Eliminate, and I recently had the rare fortune to collaborate with one of the greatest dubstep producers in a generation, the legendary Flux Pavilion. The result is a singular piece of music that we believe to be of great importance, the type of record that turns enemies to lovers, friends to lovers, lovers to even more like lovers than they were before. Featuring the enchanting vocals of Mish, the record is called Dawn, and I highly recommend that you roll your windows down for this one. Even in the blistering winter months, the cold will be no bother when this much heat is present. And with that, I bid you good day.
For those of you that don't know, I did just release a song in collaboration with Flux Pavilion. It is called Dawn, and I would like to briefly explain how this song came to be. Back in, I think it was May of 2023, I received a direct message from Flux Pavilion. Attached in this... God damn it. Attached to this direct message was a whip, and for those of you non-music nerds, it stands for Work in Progress, and it was called Dawn. And I opened it, and I fell in love with it. I really did. It was a beautiful melody to an extent that I instantly formed an attachment with it. And not only that, but I had visions for it. It is very rare for me to hear an idea in my head and then actually translate it to real life. Usually it gets lost in the sauce, and then whatever shits out the other side is not what you initially had planned. Instantly when I heard this song, I could just picture this top line being like kind of like the stadium sing-along type vibe, you know, like the going into a drop that follows the exact same kind of pattern. Had a session with my friend Veronica, who is the singer on Playing with Fire, and this other guy Greg, who I just met that same day. And I kind of pitched my idea of like, how do we get these like this big moment, you know, this big clap along like singing moment. Greg is also a singer, so I recorded him singing those O's that you hear, stacked them up and turned that into like the big thing. And then once I had that, I was like, dude, we're locked in. This is kind of exactly how I've been imagining this thing all along. Then I hit up Flux and I was like, who can we get to sing on this thing? Any recommendations? And he sent me Mish, her Spotify. It was like, oh dude, she's perfect. This voice is like exactly what would fit well on this type of a song. She ended up coming out to LA in November. That's when I got her in the studio and recorded the vocals. And finally the song was finished that same week. And that's sort of how it came together over the course of like 6 months. Then I asked him, I was like, can I put this on the album? And he was like, yeah, let's do it as a single. And I said, sure thing, pal. And it's the last single before the album. Yo, album coming soon. Let's just start it off. So this is right up. I'll just play the song. So this is one of the stems that was sent to me from Flux, and I just renamed it Musical Dandelion. That's a callback for anyone familiar with, I think it was either season 2 or season 3 of Audio Combat. Kind of a nice little euphoric intro. You may also hear this vocal chop here. And then we go into these glorious, glorious chords here. I got the MIDI from Flux and then just layered it with a bunch of different things. So like, I think this is piano. Some very synthy 80s type chords here, if I am not mistaken. Yeah. And they're low pass. Humpty Dumpty little EQ. Did Flux come out to LA? No, we did this whole thing online. This was also one of the other stems that was sent to me via Flux mail. The vocal synth, this little thing here, this little kind of like angelic, like. This melody right here that I made out of this chop is like the kind of the main core melody that I was talking about when I initially started yapping about the lore of the song. This is the melody that I was talking about right here. that was the part of the melody that I heard and was like, this is sing-along type shit. I have a bunch of different variations of the MIDI. You can tell kind of by listening to the song that it sort of gets stripped down as the song goes on until the drop, when then the drop is just like the core, kind of like top notes. After I had pretty much gotten the verse and everything all done, is I took just parts of Misha's vocal and then made this little chop of the melody. The verse intro section is basically just, you know, the chords and then like a sort of like a trappy drum beat here. Kind of like a poppy, not super forthcoming of what the tune actually is, kind of like sounds like. The intro is kind of just like a little wild card type thing, but. Got some plucks here to kind of keep the rhythm. Sub bass pluck, and then I think this is just like an actual, yeah, you know, this kind of stuff. Slap it a bit. And I think just like a low saw to kind of give that little hum texture too. Piano. And then the vocals themselves. For the vocals, what I did is I did one layer, one main dry layer, which kind of comes in right here. Thinking about you when I close my eyes, like watching the stars across the night collide. And I already comped all the vocals and then processed them a little bit and then rebounced them. So this is like a chain on top of an already previously exported chain, if that makes any sense. And then on like words like that, I layered a super reverbed delayed version. And then I believe this is another layer that's doing the same thing, but it's got manipulator on it. So it might be format shifted. I can't remember. My eyes. Okay, no, it's just the My Eyes. Oh, it's got micro shift on it. So it's like filling out the wider parts, you know, the stereo. It sort of engulfs you in, what's the terminology here? I gotta sound smart. I gotta sound like I know what I'm doing. The second fraction of the root phrase in the latter part of the first bar for the lyrics. Going into this breakdown here, this cool little omnisphere pluck thing. Very Owl City core. And then like a super dry version of the vocal. Light from the sky, it fades when you're gone. And then I did like this cool little super duper delay here. But if I can find the automation, you'll see that it cuts out instantly. So it goes gone. And then it's gone. Pun. It's when you're gone, but when you come back, it shines on me like the. And then I took the end of the phrase and then vocoded it like the dawn through manipulator, and also put microshift on it so that the vocoded part fills out the outer edges, sort of resolves it really nice as it goes into this minor little part here before the big stadium moment that I was referencing earlier. Like the dawn. Big reverse brass into other brass. Yeah, these things. They sort of fart. They sort of have a little fart at the end. Each brass sort of shits itself just a little bit. These brasses are so essential because when I wrote this part initially, I didn't have them in. It was like one of the last things I added in the song, and it was insane how much just having like that layer adds and like completes it. Because it was cool. It sounded cool without it. But as soon as I got the brass in, I was like, dude, that's what it was missing. And then we have one of the original stems sent over from Flux. This guy right here. Also, when Greg was here, we did a little guitar action, so I had him just record like some little plucks, which is really nice. Another layer here that adds an insane amount. Like when you take these guitar plucks out, it's crazy how much just this adds. Obviously the big claps, a big cashmere impact. I think this is a sub bass pluck, which is kind of being, you can see, I think this is an envelope being automated down here. Oh no, filter. That's making it go dun 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 dun. And then the O's that I was talking about. This was my first time trying to really do like an O, like a group shouts or whatever, you know? So I was like, how do I do that with one person? Because normally if you want this effect, then you just have a bunch of people around a mic and all singing the thing at the same time, and then it just sounds natural. But I just had one guy going, I think what we did, since it's such a high thing, is that we recorded him like 2 or 3 semitones down, and then I just pitched the take up. The bottom layer is the crucial one. This is how I was able to achieve kind of like the sing-along effect, simply by just doing, I think, another bounce of this same vocal rooted over to this exact same chain, except this one has a choir. It's the Antares choir plugin. Kind of like a chorus effect almost, but it does like add a lot of kind of width. And then when you layer that with the dry one, sort of starts to sound more like a bunch of people singing it rather than just one guy. Especially when you put it over everything. And then like for context, if I take all the effects off, it's like, hey man, it turns into like that one guy when you're hanging out and maybe a song comes on, and the one guy that's singing over the song when you just want to hear the song, with the one guy he's like has to tell everyone that he knows the lyrics, so he's singing along. You're like, bro, come on, man. So once I got these in here, that's when I was like, dude, the vision is, I'm with the vision, okay? Because the vision that I initially had, it took me like a few months to get there because I couldn't record these vocals myself. I tried. Not gonna go down that road. Not gonna touch on that any further. Didn't sound good. I had to get an actual singer to do it. Repeats, and then the second half is here is when it sort of starts to build up. So I added another one of the initial layer synth or stems that was sent through by Flux. This distorted guy right here. Another layer chords down here. Real ravey, you know? And then it goes into drop. We also have whatever this is. Oh, you notice how I keep talking about that top layer getting stripped down? It continues to get stripped down. And now the main drop sort of starts to peek its head out through this little saw synth here. Some cool happy hype drums here. Big drum fill. Couple drum fills layered over each other. Yeah. And then this, okay, let's go. Okay, let's go. It's kind of cute. I initially took it out, and then he was like, can we put that back in? And I was like, yeah, you're right. You're right. It belongs in the song. I don't know why I took it out. Okay, stop. And then I was like, don't do a fake out drop. Don't do a fake out drop. But then I was like, this is like a singable drop. It's very bop, bop, boppable, you know, where you can like bop, bop the melody, which I've had visions, you know, hopefully if people catch on, and then maybe one day in a not too distant future, if I'm ever perhaps DJing, you know, and maybe this song comes on and people that were at the show like maybe wanted to, you know, I've never had like a bop 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 moment. Well, I guess I kind of did with Moolah, but like, you know, like just like if they wanted to like maybe just sing the song, could be kind of cool. Speaking of Moolah, use the same synth. Rinse, reuse, and recycle. Okay. Be kind to Earth and reuse your serum patches and from your most popular songs in other songs. Look, I'm just trying to do my part. But what I did do is I automated the detune of the oscillator beat. I used this Moolah synth as a placeholder because I was always like, I want to do something cooler, but then it dawned on me that I don't need to do that. Okay, literally for like a long time I was like, yeah, no, this is just the placeholder drop. I'm gonna use the same arrangement, the same melody, the same MIDI, but I'm gonna get a cooler sound in there. And then I was like, why? This sounds fine. So I left it. Here, let me just play the drums. Initially, I was going to do just 4 on the floor, which if you've heard the song, you know that I did end up doing that on the second drop. But the first drop, it's like 4 on the floor with a snare in place of the second and fourth kick. That with the offbeat sort of side trance pluck creates kind of this just very like fruity danceable moment. I didn't even want to focus too much on like the, you know, the drum aspect. I just wanted the melody to be the main focus point, which is why it's essentially taking up the whole thing. So I layered it with itself, but this one, again, it's a little bit of micro shift on here. And that essentially is just like, it just helps fill it out. It helps make it wider. It helps it take up more space, especially when you're doing a drop out of such a minute thing. There's not a lot going on here. You have a lot of space to fill up. So that's kind of why it starts very, very dry. And then gets really wide when the drums come in. I don't have any brass. I just have this little bass yoink. Very subtle. But you can see it even in its like decayed, decrepit, angry state, it still follows the melody because it has to. The sidechain and the bass layers are all very, very crucial here. Speaking of which, I have the sub happening, like, here's the sub pattern going like this. And then in between that is when the pluck comes in. So it's just a very simple, basic. The drum pattern switches from the boom, 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 to a more of a boom, boom, boom. This is the most professional terms that I could put it. Kind of a vibe on its own. Yeah, f the rest of the song, dude. And then this is where the thing kind of opens up. Other melodic layers of the melody kind of creeping back in, bringing melodic peace and tranquility into our song. Big piano moment here, big dance piano moment here. There was a whole second verse of this song that I ended up not even using, but the end of the second verse was this "I don't want to feel alone" lyric. I took that and chopped it up and put it right here. Also, in the initial session, before I got Mish on the track, I had Bussy do her own rendition of the top line melody in vocal form. Which is a very subtle background layer. Before I had any vocals to work with on this song, I was just taking samples from my own sample pack to just use as like placeholders. But I ended up just kind of leaving this one here. It just sort of filters in. Latter half of the B section here, we bring back the big choir O's. Filtered those guys in, layered a big slapping, honking siren riser. Stuff like that essentially like alerts you that the shit's about to transition. This is like the progressive overload. I think that's a fitness term. I'm gonna apply it to my song, where the song just eventually progresses to a point where now there's too much going on, where if you added anything else, you're not even gonna be able to know it's there. And then that's why we decompress into this little breakdown here. Melody continues in vocal format. Bring in some nice guitar. My dream is to one day be able to play that around a campfire. And then I did a big copy and paste moment, in a sense, where I copied the first verse over. What I did here to kind of keep things fresh is added some live drums. Most of the same layers here. The space between us two subsides. With one added poggers detail here, which is the vocoder layer. Thinking about you when I close my eyes. Like watching the stars across the night collide. And all the space between us two subsides. So we stay awake until we see the sunrise. Still, the main dominant vocal is the top line itself. And then this thing sort of sits underneath it. Thinking about you when I close my eyes. Like watching the stars across the night collide. And all the space between us two subside. And we stay awake until we see the sunrise. Enter Big Nate hardstyle moment. Added these kind of like 90s style drums, which I think is pretty cool. Big reverb, no pre-drop or anything, just big suction cup energy into Drive on the floor. That's my shit. Cool on its own, honestly, but obviously not the same vibe as when you bring in these vocal chops here. Let me turn them off, or turn the effects off so I can play them dry first. Then what I did to kind of get a much more dancey, polished vibe is a bunch of EQing for sure. I use this other plugin called Xvox. Well, this one does kind of give a really bright feel when you push up the highs in this thing, which I needed these chops to be very bright because they just needed to be. I don't know. I don't ask me to explain stuff. All right, let me explain the rest of the song. Okay, watch Fruity dance and then watch the wet knob on this reverb. This right here is a f***ing mess. But it's very important because it creates like this pulsating effect where if I didn't do these automations, it wouldn't sound as full. It sounds like barf shitting out ass. That's... whatever, man. Whatever, dude. And that's the song. One of the songs where it was really cool to see how it actually came together. A very rare time where the vision that I have visioned actually came to life. But this is exactly how I pictured this thing as soon as I got the stems from Flux. It's like he hit a wall with it. He was like, man, I don't know. I can't think of anything with this song. And I was like, brother, you just wrote like the prettiest melody that I've heard in a minute. Allow me. Then I started working on it, man. And I think it was a really cool song to see come together over the course of like 6 months. Not only that, I get to put it on my album, have a collab with Flux Pavilion on my first album. One of the first dubstep artists I ever even listened to. I'm talking about Cracks, dude. I'm talking about Gold Dust. I'm talking about I Can't Mother Stop. Me, 2010, Dark Room, playing League of Legends. I played Jax. And I listened to Cracks and Gold Dust. And I Can't Mother Stop. And here we are 14 years later, man. Pretty cool.